I don't know if I'll get up today. I don't know if I'll give one single today. My whole outlook is sunken gray, and I have no idea why I woke up this way. Got my phone in my right hand, my books on the nightstand. If I unlock and I app pop, I'm stuck there, I'm a dead man. So Lord, give me the strength to please read one page. If it works in any way, I'll move on to the next thing, oh dear. I got my socks on, I'm coming up.
Welcome to Positively Undefeated. This is a podcast that talks about the day-to-day struggle ordinary people have over their demons and how each day they remain positively undefeated. We share ideas and ways that you can empower yourself to remain strong so that you can embrace the journey of living.
Thank you guys for tuning into our podcast, Positively Undefeated. I'm Burl, and I want to encourage you guys to go to our website, which is evenoneless.com, and also go to your favorite podcasting app, which is, Apple or Spotify or Google Podcast, or there's several other. And, find this podcast if you can review it, and that helps us a lot. If you can share it, that will help us a lot as well. I'm here today with Pete. Pete, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate you being on the show. We got dogs.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm doing this from home too, and we have enough animals for a zoo, I think. So, Pete, if you don't mind, I want to. First of all, are you from Midland?
I am from far West Texas, but I live in Odessa, but I work in Midland. So I have been in the Odessa area since 1999. So
Long time.
Might as well call it home. A long time.
It's funny because I lived for the most part, most of my life in West Texas. I lived in Denver City, Texas. Nobody knows where that's at, but Denver City. And then I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico. Most people don't know where that's at unless you live in West Texas. Everybody in West Texas knows where Hobbs is. But yeah, my grandparents lived in Midland forever until they passed away. And then, of course, my aunt. It's changed so much there, hasn't it? Just over the years.
Oh, yeah. What used to take a 20-minute drive to Odessa, Midland now takes 45. And I was driving home from work the other day, and there's just not the traffic, but the construction, because there's only a couple of ways to get to Midland and Odessa. And if they're doing construction on either one of those, traffic is backed up. It's not Dallas-Fort Worth, but in those days it feels like it.
Oh, God. Well, I lived there in like early 90s, and it was kind of dead there, at that time. But now, like I-20 is on permanent construction, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Well, brother,
I'm not going to complain.
You being on the show, what I've noticed with men, and I'd just like to hear your input on it, is that, a lot of men seem to like silently suffer when they're dealing with something. They have a tendency. I know in my own life, like I kind of silently suffered, and I didn't really want to talk about what was going on in my head. Maybe I was embarrassed about kind of what was going on in my head. I know I personally struggled a lot with depression at times, and yet I wanted to get better, but I struggled with like how to get better, who to talk to. And then, I'd try stuff like counseling, and I just kind of seemed to struggle through it. What has your experience been like when it comes to like your internal struggle, and what have you done to kind of like try to help with that situation? I'd just like to hear your thoughts.
Oh, wow. Where do we start?
Yeah.
I can probably tell you, 3 instances in my life where it wasn't pretty. Probably the first time I was in the Army. I was going through boot camp.
Yeah.
I was a recruit, man, and I weighed like 100 pounds wet. I hadn't done any exercising prior to joining. I had never found a rifle. Basically I signed up and never heard from my recruiter again. And then I just show up at basic.
Yeah.
Wow, that was rough.
Yeah.
And now you're pushed to your limits, and I just couldn't do anything right. And of course, everything you see in the movies, that's how I prepared for basic training. I saw a lot of movies that dealt with stuff like that. But once I got in there, and it was always something, the running, the exercising, the qualifying, and you get to those moments like, how do I get out? And you can't run away. It's not like I quit.
Right.
You couldn't call someone and cry and it's too hard and I don't know what to do. And you had a rifle and you were surrounded with things and like, how do I get out of here? How do I get out of this situation? I mean, I'd look around and God, and my head was going somewhere, just the body would not react. I just would not, I couldn't react on my emotions.
Yeah.
So I toughed it out. It was just, you get in your head for what seems like a forever time. It's probably a minute or so. And okay, so it didn't work out the first time. So I got recycled again, and that was sort of a blessing because I had to go through basic a second time. No one goes to basic 2 times, and I did. And guess what? It was a lot easier. I knew what to do. I knew the yelling got used to, you know what I mean? It was just,
Yeah.
But in those moments, I think in that moment, I had to figure out a way I have had to figure out a way to get better at what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's not that I was depressed. It was not that it was just, I just didn't know what to do. I was fucking up. But I sort of stuck it out.
Yeah.
And it seemed to pass. Now you fast forward and now you're a little older and you get involved in relationships. And for me, the second part of this is the drinking.
Yeah.
I was drinking a lot. Had dropped out of school, out of college, had met someone, moved from my hometown that's how I ended up in Odessa, Midland. Yeah, that's how I, follows that person. And all I did was drink.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold a job. And it wasn't even paycheck to paycheck. It was paycheck to go to the bar.
Yeah.
I was really doing nothing with my life. I got out of the army, I got discharged. Like I said, I flunked out of school and my friends were doing everything that you're supposed to do. You go to school, you graduate, get a career, you get married, start having kids. I was still stuck in the party. I partied Thursday, Friday, Saturday, went to my job on Monday, and then blew my paycheck on the weekends. And then I screwed up the job. My partner at the time did not want me there because I couldn't contribute to the household because I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll show you. And I'll show you. And so in those moments, I know in that moment, the I'll show you means, I'll go into the bathroom, get pills and down them with some vodka. The panic kicks in because I'm so stupid. What have I done? Take me to the ER. So took me to the ER and left me there. And, they put you in the gurney. They shove that thing down your throat to pump your stomach, which I would not advise. And it was I remember they were saying, why did you do it? And I didn't have any answers. Because in that moment, they're just trying to get that crap out of you. You sort of spend the night and they're like, okay, here's a number. Here's a number. Sorry, I've got congestion. For the nearest mental health counselor. And I think I went, but now no job, no partner, no place to live, and no family. Well, I had family, but at that point I sort of just pushed them away because I had been always bailing me out with this relationship. And at that point, they're like, you want to go? We're not going to help you anymore. Don't call us. And so I think I remember going to one session. I can remember what they told me. I don't know what I talked about. Doing that, I thought this person was going to love me more or save me. And like I said, that person just left me in the ER to fend for myself. And that's when I had to tuck my tail between my legs and go back home. And I think my family, my brother or sister might have called my parents. So they were like, what are you doing? What is going on that you did this? Why? We didn't talk about it. They were just like, what are you doing? What are
Yeah.
you doing with your life? And I had to go back home to my parents. Um, and I was, God, how old was I? In my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Again, no job, moving in back with your parents. Um, but my parents lived in a small town. I didn't want to live in a small town. I wanted to come back to Odessa.
Yeah.
So I didn't. The drinking continued. The drinking continued. Um, and there's probably for another podcast another time. Um, but I knew there was some issues going on in my life. That alcohol just seemed to numb the pain, and I just and I'm 52, so there were things that had happened to me as a kid, and I on top of that as well, and I can't. I didn't know where to turn to. I didn't know who I could turn to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have like a network of people that I could lay all my stuff at the door.
Yeah.
There's issues with, am I gay, bi? I had been engaged to women. I'm not married. I don't have kids. But the one thing I ended up getting was my degree. I had a degree, and that's how I ended up back in Odessa because I got that damn degree. It took me a while, but I got it.
Right.
I didn't have the best grades because I partied my ass off, but I got the degree. I mean, if anything, I always tell people I lost the relationship, but I got it the degree because at that point my thinking was, they can take away whoever you're with, they can steal your partner, your whoever, but that degree is a degree you earned. And
Yeah.
when I say that was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, it was because it was, after Army and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life because my life was now not what I envisioned it to be.
Mm.
To the breakups, the makeups, the. Oh, and let me also tell you that during the course of getting the degree, I got in graduate school. So you put that not too good on someone who's fresh out of college, and you have to put, have you ever been arrested or do you have any misdemeanor? So I was already, the career that I wanted to go to was already not what I think I was going to end up getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to Odessa, and with a piece of paper, I got a psychology degree, go figure, with a minor in criminal justice because I wanted to help people. Now I didn't want to be a counselor or anything like that because I had my own issues, but I knew I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And of course, I liked the criminal justice part of it. But when you got a couple of when you have a PI and a DWI, but I liked both of those fields of study, and that's why I got the degree. But I thought I was going to graduate on Saturday, move to Odessa, Maryland on Sunday, and on Monday I was going to get that job.
Yeah.
And that did not happen.
Yeah.
Um, because I had a psychology degree, I didn't have a master's, I didn't have a certification, I didn't have an internship, I didn't have references, I didn't have anything other than a piece of paper that said I was a college graduate.
Yeah.
So my job prospects were limited. I could say I was depressed at the time, but I was sort of go with the flow kind of guy. So I spent a lot of time looking for jobs. By looking for jobs, I was either at the bar or finding the next person. So there was an issue with codependency because I thought I was going to find someone who's going to take care of me. I'm stuck on that. Someone's going to take care of me, or I'm going to find my next sugar daddy, sugar mama, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't spend a lot of time focusing on the jobs as much as I did fucking around and being promiscuous and just doing things you're not supposed to do. I mean, for me, I never did drugs. I may have experimented, but that was not for me. It was just the drinking.
Yeah.
I just drank a lot. I just ended up job after job from retail to retail to retail to just any job because a job's a job, but I was never that person to plan for the future. Because it's always going to be, uh, the bar drinking your paycheck away, and then ended up with this job and, by accident. And think about that job. Um, on my way home, there was a bar that I would pass on my way home, and I would stop at that bar every day, because I worked. Now, believe it or not, I ended up getting a job in the legal community, in the legal field, not in law, but in legal. Um, and that was my go-to place. And that's where I got my second DWI.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 2 DWIs now. And I remember going to the judge, in front of the judge, because I had to get a lawyer. And part of the deal was I had to get blow device, was on probation, had to go AA, had to do community service, all of that. And I remember the judge telling me, you of all people should know the difference between right and wrong. You work in this community, but I'll put it on the court records that if you get a third DWI, you're going up the creek.
Mm-hmm.
Because you of all people, I know who you are, I know what you do. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Lawyer, no lawyer. That's where you're headed on your next one. And up until a couple of months ago, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Risking and drinking.
Dude,
So
I'm like so amazed by how like there's parts of your story that like coincide with mine. In other words, we have a lot more in common than, of course, you may realize is that one, I was in the Army too. Two, struggle with alcohol for sure. That's been a big struggle of mine. Same thing. Kind of a lot of the stories are similarity, like I graduated from college but it was kind of the same deal where, it's kind of like, barely got there and it was later in life. I mean, there's so much similarities there. Well, I'm curious what your thought is like when I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking about like our stories and, like from a young child, I just felt like that something was wrong with me, like something was missing.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell this story, which is funny because a lot of people can't relate to, but my parents were in the oil field. So we lived in West Texas, but then we would be transferred to outside of Austin to this town called Smithville. And so we basically went to both, 2 years here, come back, 2 years here. And I remember living outside of Austin and we lived out in the woods and, I'd heard from kids that you could smoke grapevine, grapevine, like grapes, grapevine, and that it gave you a little high. And I remember as a kid, like, basically smoking this grapevine, looking for something, to like, just to fill this void. And, I felt like that I didn't fit in. I was bullied, of course, and a lot of that had to do with just very low self-confidence. I just struggle with self-confidence and, it's not to blame my parents or whatever, but on the same point, a lot of that was, maybe due to the upbringing and the environment at home. And, and for me, like looking back, it always seems like I was searching for something because I just felt like I didn't fit in. So whenever I did find alcohol, it, always like jokingly, but half serious to say, man, I became talkative. I became social. It was almost like, a miracle for me because I'm like, I came out of my shell and drinking helped with that. And it's funny because if I told you like the first 1 or 2 stories about me drinking, whenever I was young, you'd say, man, and you never drink again, right? Because, I got so drunk that I was throwing up. And, in other words, it wasn't really, when you look at it, it wasn't a good experience, but something happened inside of me that like, man, this makes me feel more romantic, more social, more all these things. And, and that's kind of started this road that it kind of felt like it filled that void at the time, and for years, a lot of years, it seemed like it filled that void. And I'm curious, your experience, like, what did you have that feeling when you were young that just like, man, I just don't fit in. I don't,
Oh
something
yeah. Oh
wrong
yeah.
with me, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I will tell you, I started drinking in the sixth grade. What? Yeah, the sixth grade. And my dad had a garage, and he worked as a rancher because we were out in far west Texas, and and he was a mechanic on the side. So all the men from town would bring in their vehicles, and that's where the men would hang out at the garage, and he had the refrigerator. And,
Mhm.
like most kids, you're going to go and sneak in, and I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, there was a thing called malt duck, whatever that is. I just remember it was malt duck. And then, but sixth grade, and then you get into junior high, and you start stealing or convincing someone to buy you Strawberry Hill.
Yeah.
And then you're right. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think probably in another time, in another place, you and I could probably have hours and hours, because everything you said is how I felt, because I wasn't athletic. I didn't think I was good looking. I wore glasses. I had braces. I wasn't athletic, and you had to be all of that in those small town. I didn't have a car, but the one thing I did, and my parents, I agree. I had we laugh about it now as adults when we get together, but it was an ugly upbringing. And my parents were divorced, and my mom was married, and there was the drinking and the domestic violence, and it was just ugly. And picking up the kids and going home to the relatives and all of that crap that I saw and dealt with. And I, one point, got tired of it, and I ran away and I moved in with my grandma. But this was in high school. But like I said, I wasn't athletic. I wasn't, and I'm the oldest. Let me tell you that I'm the oldest of four.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I'd ever done in life that I was pretty good at was I knew how to hold a job as I was a young kid, because my parents pushed me. You're the oldest, get a job. So I've been working since the sixth grade. Maybe, I don't know what came first. It's chicken or the egg. That's how my life has been, trying to figure out what came first, the chicken or the egg. So I started working in the sixth grade. I'm that person that had a job growing up forever. But when I ran away from home, I got this job and lived with my grandma. And that's when, and I worked after school, but the people who were working at this establishment were the people who were already out of high school, who were the single moms, divorced moms. They were the older crowd. And so they would go and party after work. And I wanted to be with that group. And I was that person. I went with them to the dances, to the cool parties. I finally felt mature at 16, 17, 18, because I was with the older crowd. Look at me now. I'm with the older crowd. I get to go to the party. Now I have my in. Someone's buying me the alcohol. And that's when the drinking really got out of hand, because I cared less about going to school and more being with the in crowd, because I was finally with the in crowd. I was with the older crowd, so, but yeah, I agree with everything that you talked about, because I'm sure we had to similar, but that's what it did. It even does that now. Even at 52, I still, at 52, I've got the degree, I got the career, I got the car, I got the house, an apartment. I pay my own bills. I say, they're like, I'm 52, but I look 35. So that for me is the biggest compliment. But, I'm not married. I don't have kids. So for me, it's like, why am I still not attractive enough for someone? Why hasn't someone caught me? Why haven't I been someone's pick? And so because of that, I have turned to the alcohol, because it made me approach strangers at a bar or at a restaurant, or it made me feel, like you said, more sexual, more
Social.
whatever, to be able to talk to people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we are in a world right now where, there's apps on phones, and there's all these hookup sites you can do on your phone, on the internet, and it's all about the face pic. They want a face pic. They want to know what you look like before they even talk to you. And that's a lot of rejection. Swipe right if you like me, swipe left if you do. And I have found out I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm Hispanic, I'm not white, I'm not skinny enough, I'm hairy, I'm not hairy, I have a beard, I don't have a beard. They will tear you apart nowadays. And so not deal with that, just go to a bar and make myself feel better with with a beer, with a drink.
No.
But the flip side of that is the promiscuity of, I'm a guy, guys are horny 24/7. Well, if you're not going to want me, I'm going to find someone who does, even if it doesn't mean anything, even if it's a quickie, even if it's with someone who's married. Because I want to feel, like you said, you want to feel love. You want someone to hold you. And I always say, even if it's a damn lie, or in that moment, you think you made a connection. You've got someone right here. They have something you want something what they have. Even at the end of the day, it means nothing to either one of you. But then they leave, and you're no bitter, and you're no in a better place than you were when you first brought them into your apartment. You know what I mean? You're still left empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny because, I'll be 52 in June. And so you and I are also close to the same age. And, one thing I found out for my like journey is that, and this is kind of embarrassing when I looked at it, I realized that I had the maturity, like emotional maturity, let's say, of like a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old. And in other words, that part of my
Mhm.
psyche or that part of my brain, it just almost like it stopped developing. Yeah, I read a devotional recently that just talked about that. And it talked about that it was like this guy that wrote it was saying that he was emotionally stuck like at this 13, and yet he was kind of feeling like he was pretending to be an adult. He was pretending to be adult, but he knew deep inside he was like emotionally still immature. And that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, which, again, to say that out loud is kind of embarrassing to say that out loud, to be like, man, I'm immature emotionally. And it had the same as what you're talking about. It had a lot to do with the relationships. It had, I just felt like that, same thing. It's like, I mean, in my case, I had been divorced twice. I felt like, man, I was not good at relationships, and I was, and so I had to really look at that, and I was surprised by it, that I'm just like basically emotionally immature. And I don't know if that's something that you have, felt, but that was something that really I struggled with whenever I looked at myself, and I'm like, man, that's kind of embarrassing. So,
Well, I mean, I guess because I can share, right? I can share both anything, right? That's why we're here.
yeah.
I'm also I was a victim of molestation as a child. So I think that's what the chicken before the egg, that the drinking start because of that start before the drinking. I don't know, but I think that when you're talking, and my birthday's in May. So, we are the same age. And so I'm sure, like I said, another podcast, we could probably talk hours and hours, but I will tell you that because of that incident, um, and because it happened so early in my life, I always tell people, and I'm not ashamed to even say it. It sucks that it happened to me, but I say because of that, I went from being 6 to 16 because
Mm,
of those adult experience to me that happened to me as a child.
mm,
Those adult experiences are supposed to happen when you're an adult, not with a child. So at 6, I was already exposed to that um, stuff that happened to me, on top of the drinking. So I always tell people, and I think my parents will even tell you, I never had a childhood
yeah.
because I went from 6 to 16. There's that whole period of my life that I'm sure, it was great and all that, but my head is just, you know, I was already thinking, feeling that way. And so I think when you are growing up and you see yourself with those feelings, those emotions, cravings, um, I figured, well, that's why I act out, because I never got to act out as a child. That's
Yeah.
why I did stupid shit as an adult, because I never got to do that as a child. I'm not making excuses, but I'm just trying to figure out in my head why I did the stuff that I did.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that's so, you throw that into the mix as well. Like, I've had a crappy life. Um, how you get through it, you just get through it. And I will tell you that probably about 6 years ago, I was at work and I got an email and they were going to have a men's group of sexual, assault or whatever survivors for men. Because that's another thing we don't talk about. As men, we don't talk about it. I think we're still stuck at that. All this shit was going on, but I couldn't tell my parents. I couldn't tell anybody. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't even know if I could even say it out loud.
Yeah.
Now I can say it to you. I
Mhm.
can say it to, but it's very hush hush. Um, yeah, my parents will be the first to tell you I drink too much. The signs were there growing up, and I was like, parents, why didn't you see the signs that I was acting out? Why, if they were there, it was sort of like, it was a cry for help. But at the same time, when you're like little kid, who are they going to believe? You or the adult, and I just wallowed it up inside. I just kept all of this shit inside of me, acted out, drank, did everything. And it wasn't until about 6 years ago that I was at work. And that's the one good thing is that I've been at my job for a very long time. And I saw this men's group. Oh, finally, a men's group. Men like me who were going to be able to talk about stuff now because we're men. I think 4 or 5 men went to this meeting and then found out what it was going to be a lot of talking and sharing. And the next meeting, there was like maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the meeting didn't meet. And I was like, damn it, that was my opportunity to talk to other men
Yeah.
about this. But the person who was leading the group says, we're not going to be able to make this men's meeting, but are you willing to talk? And so for the past 5 years, I talked to a counselor. Finally, every Monday at 3 o'clock, I talk to someone and it's a female. At
Mhm.
first I like, oh, female, I want to talk to a guy, but every Monday at 3 o'clock. And what I get to do is I do an inventory of my life.
Mhm.
I can still fuck around. I can still make mistakes, but we can talk about the why and the who and why did you do it? And it's sort of what that counselor has done is given me sort of like those little cartoons with the little angels and the devil.
Yeah.
Do it, don't do it. And I
Yeah.
never had that before. I never had that accountability. I never had to worry about the consequences. I never had to worry about hurting other people. I never had to worry about anything because all I did was going in life was worrying about Pete.
Mhm.
And I didn't care who I hurt, robbed, stole from to get my needs met. But
Mhm.
now and a lot of people probably know that I talk to a counselor. I'm not afraid to say that I talk to a counselor. Some
Mhm.
people say it works. Some people say it doesn't work. I don't know if it works. I just needed to talk to someone.
Yeah.
This is therapy for me right now. Even talking to one other person, because you got to talk to someone because it's building up, building up, building up, and it's just word vomit. You just gotta put it out there. You gotta talk to someone. And so fast forward. So I've been doing that, and that allowed me to move alone, keep my job, pay my bills, you know, and be responsible for once in my life. For the past 5 years, I lived alone, paid my own bills. Um, the drinking was still there, the promiscuity was still there. But 5 or 6 years ago, I couldn't hold down an apartment. I probably would have been evicted. I probably would have pawned my TV. For the 6 years, I had cable and my electricity never got cut off. I paid my bills. I had a car, made my car payment. No one had to help me with life now. I was an adult. I had to start living like an adult. I had to start acting like an adult. I had to stop depending on other people. But I don't think I could have done that without talking to someone, talking to a counselor.
Mhm.
I think you and I have said that if we had just talked to someone back then, I don't know. I don't know if my life would have been different had I gone to a school counselor, a priest, someone I don't know. But the second part of that is that while I was at work and I've been doing the counseling, I went to a meeting, a luncheon, which I did not even want to go to. And someone in my repression setup says, da da da, I'm John, I'm an alcoholic, da 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 da. And I knew John. I met John. I'd worked with John. And if you want to ever talk about, issues or whatever, reach out to me. Man, the minute I was done with that meeting, I was emailing him. We met up for lunch. John and I were a lot like you and I. We were a lot more similar than what we thought. Literally.
Yeah.
Guess what? Because of John, I'm going to AA now. I will have 30 days come April 1st.
That's awesome.
I'm going to AA, and I have a sponsor.
Yeah.
Again, it was dealing with that part of my life as well, of having to go to a meeting, and I never thought I could even say it. My name is Pete. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so, again, I had done the AA because it was part of my probation, and I thought it was very cliquish. I didn't like it. I would sign my paper so I can go. And now, the where we meet for our AA meetings is 5 minutes from my work. Go figure. So now instead of going home to the bar, I make that left turn and I get out of work at 5. That AA meeting's at 5:30.
Yeah, that's great.
And because of that, now I have a group of men who now we can talk about the drinking and the why and the who. And I just sit there, and sometimes I get to talk, and I don't really have a lot to say. And sometimes they pick on me, and I have a lot of things to say. But I think it takes me out of those dark places that I once was, but I'm still an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So I have to be very careful about.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That.
Yeah, I'm like blown away because same thing.
No.
Our stories are so similar. And, that's one thing that AA teaches you is that it teaches you to look for similarities versus, differences. But man, it's really, I know whenever I quit drinking, it's been almost 2 years since I quit drinking. And, I go to AA actively, and, one of the things I always talk about, man, I struggled, back to that emotional immaturity. Like when I quit drinking, basically I didn't know how to deal with the feelings. I have these feelings and, like, let's say it's like, things would get me upset and I would and I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. So I almost felt like a dog cage. Like I just didn't know what to do with them. And for me, the last 2 years, if I had to summarize it, it's like learning to live like in those feelings, learning to deal with them, learning to, a lot of times I would feel like, I had a similar story. What you're talking about. I had overdosed on some just over the counter medication, trying to take my own life. And, same thing. I had my stomach pumped and all that stuff. But it's funny because I didn't talk about that for, 20 years or more. And it's because if you'd asked me about it, nobody knew about it. But if you asked me about it, what I would say was I would basically blow it off like a half attempt at killing myself. I would always say, oh, that's a half attempt. And I felt like extremely stupid for it. In other words, I was, embarrassed about it, but also I chalked it up as like a half attempt. And now, 20, 30, even more than that, actually, it's been a while, but now I'm thinking, man, any attempt there's only one way to succeed in that deal is you die, and so for me, I was even looking at that not correctly. And now that I look at it now and I hear your story, I'm like, those things are real. Those are real emotions, real feelings. You can't chalk them up as just like a half attempt or not that big a deal. And I know for me, like for years, I just had these suicidal thoughts. Like basically I want to die, but I didn't have the courage is what I would tell myself. I didn't have the courage to do it, and in my family, I've had, a couple of cousins commit suicide. I've had friends, and I'm like, man, there was a time period, embarrassingly, I thought, man, those guys are brave and I'm a coward. I thought of myself as a coward because I did this half attempt or, I always thought about it and not do it. And then the realization just of like 2 years of being sober is like, wow, I I didn't realize that I couldn't deal with emotions very well. And so when those emotions came up, my answer to deal with them or to cope with life was to drink, and which, with other things too. You're talking about what do you say? Messing around. You say the word.
Promiscuity.
Yeah, yeah.
Promiscuity.
Yeah, yeah. And so the same thing, I struggle with that. And I think it was like wanting or like feeling like not wanted. Whenever you were telling your story, I was like, man, I can relate to that because you basically feel like you're not wanted. And so when somebody wants you in whatever way, even in a messed up way, you feel weirdly thankful for it. It's like, wow, until the next day, until afterwards. And that's the same thing with alcohol. It may have done its trick tonight, but the next day, because of the guilt, the shame, the remorse, a lot, the program also talks a lot about like humility. And I always say that there's more than one way to be humbled, but for me, it was through humiliation is how I was humbled. Because like you're talking about DWI, same thing when I got two DWIs at BI, and I was humiliated through those circumstances. And yes, those things will humble you, but it's a horrible way to be humbled. Life has a way of humbled. So there's so much of your story that I relate to on those notes because
I will tell you one thing because I don't know how much time we have, but there's the third incident. So it was about 2016, somewhere around there. I was miserable. I mean, I had the job. I had a second job. Because remember, that's one thing I've been now good at past, my 20s, 30s, 40s at this job. And I decided, my family bought a business and they wanted me to run it. And, you'll make more money than you'll ever dream about. And you won't have to work the two jobs. And I was just thinking about the money thing. I wanted the money. I was tired of working two jobs. So I quit the job that I loved to go work in the family business. Immediately, my grandma passed away thereafter. And when the business is good, you're good. When the business is bad, it's bad. And I was just miserable.
Yeah.
I was miserable. I didn't drink. I was just miserable. I was just hated my life, hated this job. So I went on a retreat for men because I'm Catholic and I would go to church. I wouldn't talk to anyone, but I would go to church and they were having this men's retreat, which they would have for every year. And I always thought about going, but I would go for the wrong reasons. And I finally went on this retreat and I didn't know anyone. Like I said, I didn't know anyone when I joined the retreat. And at the end, I had 80 men who were on this retreat, the people who put it, and then the men who went with me. So you talk about the acceptance, the love, the brotherhood, the fellowship. Now I had that. Something that I probably didn't have as a child or whatever. Now I had 40 older brothers, 80 actually. Great. I'm glad. Now, the reality is I had to go back to work and be miserable. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I don't see a way out. The business is failing. I'm miserable. I wasn't drinking. It was just, I've disappointed family. So I said, okay, this is the day. I'm done. I can't do it. I can't stand it. I don't have a way out because we're not talking about just breaking up with a boyfriend. We're talking about business and it affects employees, money, and I don't know how I can fix it. So I planned it out and I was even in my head, I was like, I'm going to wait till the end of business day, to do whatever I need to do. And I went and got the stuff that I needed to do. This is the day. As soon as I lock up the door, I'm going to do it. Get to my office. I get a phone call from one of the guys from church and says, can you help us tomorrow do a rosary? Okay. I go, sure. Hung up the phone and said, well, can't do it today because I got to go help do a rosary tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I go do the rosary the next day, and whatever I had bought was still in my car. And I said, "Hey, Fred, can I go to your office?" And I told Fred what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, and you can help me and tell me what your opinion is. He said, this is what you're going through is the hurt, temporary hurt right now. Well, what you're going to do is going to cause a lot of permanent hurt for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how you're hurting, but think about how it's going to affect your parents, us, your brothers, your coworkers, your friends. He goes, this is a permanent, it's not like a half attempt where, oh, I messed up. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and life will go on. He goes, if you do it, that's it.
Yeah.
And he said that. And I was like, fuck, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I'm hurting, but the hurting's going to pass. It sucks that I'm hurting, but there is no long term effect if I do it.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be around to see the good days.
Yeah.
I don't know how my life would turn out after today.
Yeah.
It could be better. It could be worse. It could be far greater than my expectations. And so that when my head goes there, even now, I'm like, no, because I don't want to miss. I'm hurting today, but it may be only for today.
Yeah.
Because I know tomorrow there's a better day. And it's very cliche. I know it's very easy to say that, but I don't want that to be a forever. Because I can't wake up like a dream and life is going to continue. Because that's it. And my head doesn't even go there anymore. I can't even think that way anymore because I know how much, because I'm very lucky that I have my parents and my brothers and my sisters and my in-laws and my nieces and nephews and coworkers and, hundreds of brothers now that have gone on this retreat with even the years after. So there's a lot of people that, would be hurting for my selfishness of me, for being something that just because I was hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so the counseling, talking to even a female now with the AA, and what AA did because of my sponsor, because he and I were so similar, then I started joining the SLAA. I don't know, sex, love, addiction, because of the promiscuity. So now there's a group for that. So now my days, you know what my days are now? It's, I get up in the morning from Odessa. I drive to Midland. There's a meditation meeting with this group of men and women because I like women, but women have the same issues that we do, believe it or not. They really do. The pornography, the promiscuity, all of that. So I do a session at 8 by Zoom because there's no local groups for that here, at least that I've found. And then I go to work. And then at noon, there's another Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Work. At 5:30, I go to my in-person AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Come home. I go to this Zoom meeting for men and women. And then at 9:30, I do another Zoom meeting for men only. And that's how my days have been like for the past month.
Yeah.
But I'm not out screwing around. I'm not out drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's a lifetime. And again, we've talked for about 52 minutes about how my life has not been the best life,
Mm-hmm.
but I can either continue living that life and be miserable or try to fix some of the damage that's happened because of that and make sense of it. And my counselor said it did. And I was kind of pissed off. I was kind of upset, but she said, this is your new life.
Mm-hmm.
This is your new life of recovery and your new life of sobriety on both ends.
Yeah.
And now, Burl, now I have to see life sober.
Yeah.
Now I have to see strangers sober.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to see me sober. And if they like Pete, they're going to like Pete for who Pete is and not because Pete was under the influence or Pete was under the influence. And as far as their promiscuity, I'm a guy's a guy and I'm horny 24/7. But I learned I didn't want to be a side piece. I didn't want to be someone's number two. I didn't want to be someone's secret lover. I didn't want to be someone's reason that they get a divorce. I didn't want to be an afterthought. I I've learned now that I need to be someone's number one.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve love and respect and have someone care for me and respect me. And I don't think I got any of that leading the life I was leading.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, all of this stuff has happened later in life, but I can at least say it's happening. I'm thankful that I get some people to talk to now. I can, say my name is Pete. I'm a love sex addict. I can say, Pete, I'm an alcoholic. I can say I've attempted suicide many a times. There's a lot of things that I couldn't say before, but if it helps someone, if it can resonate with someone, I used to the day we met and we're a lot more similar than we thought. You never know who you're going to meet, and your story is going to be, I get it. I know exactly. Oh shit. That's a surprise. Like he went through the same thing. Because when you're going through this, you think you're the only one. I thought I did.
Yeah.
I really did. I thought I was the only one in the world that was going through all of this shit because I never knew there was other men like me going through this. I didn't. And if they were, I didn't know where they were. And that's what I was craving in life, is just to talk to a group of men, a man, one man about. And that's at the end of the day, bro, that's what I want to know. Because you've heard me talk about my life. I always wanted to know, how did it turn out for you?
Yeah.
What did you do? Because I know there's doctors and lawyers and athletes and famous athletes that stuff happened to them, but that's on TV. I want to talk to a real person in front of me, whether by Zoom, and say, how did life turn out for you? How good or bad did you have it? And more importantly, to help me with my stuff, how did you get through it? Maybe you're still going through it, but it's going to help me get through the days when, and I'll end by saying, I always tell people the life I was leading, I was either going to be dead or in jail. And I don't want either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Like your dog.
Yeah.
Like I have my dogs, like my dog, he's my boy. He's, yes. If something were to happen to me, what's going to happen to him? Like you idiot. Even your dog, he depends on you. You depend on him, Get out of your head. You may be going through some shit right now that your world is fucked up right now, but you got numbers now. You got people you can call. You got people who are going to pick up the phone. Someone you can text. Yeah. Now I can call you, I hope, after this is over. Hopefully you and I
I was going to say that.
I think now there's an out. When I say when my toe crosses that line, when I'm ready to jump off the bridge, not figuratively, but when I've had it, because my head doesn't go there, and it's cliche to say, I just need to talk it out. And allows me to cry, scream, shout, cuss. And I'm okay, you're okay. But I think it's just, like you said, it's just bottling up. And I don't know. I never wanted to reach that point where it just bottles up and I have no control.
I'm listening to your story and I'm reminded, like, it's probably because we're the, same age and, it's kind of the same story. But, I always had this feeling deep inside that God had a better plan for me. Like, something special for my life. Right. And as I'm listening to your story, I'm like, here lately, probably like the theme that's been on my mind lately is that it takes a lifetime to heal from some stuff. You know what I mean? Like I had my dad come visit recently, which that was very rare. We had a lot of problems whenever I was young, a lot of conflicts. There was some stuff there. And him and I kind of got in an argument, and I was reminded that I think God put that on my heart, that it takes maybe a lifetime to heal from some of those things and to be able to go through those. And so that, number one, it gave me hope, because I thought, well, that shows that God's still working in my life, that things are still working. You know what I mean? And then, as I'm listening to you, and I think you see it a little bit, and I hope you see it, because what I see is that God's given you this like great gift, and that great gift is, man, to help people that are struggling the same way, and I think that maybe that's like our calling. That's exactly what we're supposed to be here for, you know. Um, and I think it's so easy to forget that. I think that, you know, God works in this long game. He's like really a marathon lifetime, you know, to make Pete into who he wants to be, who he wants him to be. And I mean, from an outsider who don't know you very well, but I'm listening to your story, and it's like, to me, it's like clear as day that you are like, you being vulnerable in these moments. It's like, man, that right there is super powerful. And I think that, you know, my thoughts for you is like, man, never forget how powerful like your testimony, your story is, because, you know, I'm listening into it and I'm like motivated. I'm also encouraged, and I see, you know, so much positive out of it. And I think that even for me in the past, I've been like, yeah, but you don't know, like a week ago I did this, or that's so irrelevant, I think, in these cases, because it's like we're not looking at somebody. I never planned to get on a podcast with somebody who was perfect. I wanted to get on a podcast with somebody who struggled, because I can relate to the struggle. And then same thing as what you're saying, is that I want to talk to somebody even at 30 days, or even at, you know, at this point, because it doesn't matter what point you're in, but you can tell that God's working through your life. And I'm like blown away by it, truthfully.
So you know what? So you also have to remember, and I said it today, you don't know when God is going to put you someone in your life when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Because all I did was I was riding down the elevator one day from work, and I'm just I talk to everyone. I'm just that person. I will, hey, how are you? And people remember me or my face. And that person entered the elevator one evening after work, and we talked for 30 minutes. I've never met her. That was the first time meeting her in the elevator.
No.
She told me what she did. And because I had experienced it, I didn't know she had gone through that. She didn't know that I had gone through my stuff. But says, here's someone who I think you should talk to. And that was you. That was not by accident.
No. That's absolutely,
And
you're right.
immediately I was, yes, I'll do it. I want to do it because I need to do it.
No.
It's therapy for me as well. This is helping me. And that's the thing is, and I don't know how I feel about that word lifetime, because I didn't ask for this kind of life, but it was the cards that were given to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my of the opinion, when I was going through all of this stuff as a child, as a teenager, as an adult, I'd rather have gone through it myself than my siblings. Like, I'll be that person. Let it happen to me, but not to them.
Yeah.
Let it happen to me, but not to you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, let the shit fall on me, but not on you. And so, no, I think, like I said, God puts you in your life. And I certainly didn't know what I was going to feel about doing this. And it feels like talking to you, like I said, every person I've talked to, AA's, the Slaw, even you, it's just like, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone's listening to this podcast, if they get it, we've done our part to reach them. But no, it's been, like I said, you know, I'm even amazed even how you and I got connected, because it's not like you had my number. It's not like I had your number.
No.
And this is our first time meeting, and yet we are so,
No.
like, we could be brothers, because we're the same age, and you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the same similarity with every man I've met, is just, you know, just this. And it's very cliche, and I don't want to talk, and I don't want to talk about my feelings. And guess what? I want to talk about my feelings. I'm tired of living a life. I'm tired of being hurt.
No.
I just don't like being hurt. I just don't like living a life where I'm just hurting all the time. It's not good for me. It's not healthy for me. I want to be happy. And believe me or not, my days are not perfect. Believe me, I've had shitty days, but I also know that those shitty days can turn into shittier nights.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
And so,
it's funny, you know, what I was missing within my life for years and years, and I didn't realize it was community. In other words, a group, a tribe, organization, something to be a part of, and I looked for it for many years through like church, and I looked through it in different ways, but I just never seemed to find it. And as I'm listening to you saying, is this like, man, I'm going to this group and I'm doing this through Zoom and and, and I think that especially when we're in this place, I don't know if it's because of depression or because of the alcohol, or maybe it's a combination of all these things, the hurt that you mentioned. Um, I think that we kind of isolate ourselves, and we're like me, I would really isolate myself. I would try to not be around people, and, whatever. Part of it might have been embarrassment. And yet
Mhm.
what I found, and especially when I'm listening to your story, it's like, man, those groups are pretty important. But it's hard to find, it's hard to find one that you fit into. It's hard to find one. And that's one thing I really love about AA is that, I found kind of my tribe through AA,
Mhm.
and it's, for me, it's one of the few places where you can go and be brutally honest, about what's going
Mhm.
on in your life, what you're struggling. And, it's easy to think it's all about alcohol. It's not. There's many times that I'm sharing about something that's going on in my life, and that it's not surrounding alcohol, because, you know, it's been 2 years since I drank, but on the same point, those thoughts aren't as frequent anymore, but other stuff comes out. And I
Mhm.
always tell people, it's like, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, because let's say your first struggle is alcohol. Well, like for me, I was doing counseling before I ever quit drinking. And the counselor, no fault of hers, or no fault of his, but he basically felt like, let's fix these other problems, maybe the depression, these other things, and then you won't want to drink as much. And for me, what I realized, it took a pretty humiliating, event for me to realize that I had to quit drinking in order to deal with that other stuff. So if in light of that, because I might have had depression and suicidal thoughts and all these things going on, relationships, but then I quit drinking, and now I'm able for the first time to see it clearly and be able to even work on it, which that takes a lot of time to figure it out and understand. But now you're doing it sober, and you can't run
Mhm.
and hide in the bottle every time something happens, which is what I would do in the past. But I've recognized
Mhm.
that, if
Mhm.
you deal with your alcohol problem, that does open the door. But guess what happens right after that? Your number two struggle, whatever that is, that comes right behind it, and it tries to creep in the door constantly. And for me, it was a
Mhm.
huge realization. I would say like
Yeah.
90 days in, that I was like, wait a minute. If I go down that road, I'm going to go back to drinking. If I go these non-alcoholic roads where these other struggles, if I go down those roads, then I'm going to go back to drinking, because it's just this vicious cycle that they're
Mhm.
all interrelated. And for me, it's like, I don't know how to deal with life sober, because it's been so long that I was consistently sober. And again, it wasn't like my whole adult life. I just drank every day. No,
Mhm.
the last couple of years before I stopped drinking, yes, it got to where I was drinking a lot more than I had before that. But the point is that was my way of dealing with life. And the second way I dealt with life, which wasn't great either, which that same way, which my relationships and, those kind of promiscuity, just like what you're talking about, that I had to realize that those things, you know, I had to work on those things as well, because if I didn't, they would drive me back to drinking. Same concept, and so it makes it feels very lonely when you're in that place. And so I think you have to do the groups. You have to do something. You have to find somebody that can relate to what you're saying. I do counseling too, and she's great. But what I've also realized is that is for me one part, but I need to be around people who struggle like I do too. And I think that AA and other groups, that really helps me to do that. So I love
Yeah, I
hearing.
mean, it's exhausting. But I also know that I went to the first AA meeting the Saturday before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Where's my A meeting? Well, guess what I drank? I drank on Super Bowl Sunday. So I had to
Yeah.
start all over again.
Yeah.
That's when I knew. That's when I knew that I was like, you idiot. You just went to an AA meeting. But I also know walking into those AA, hey, my name is so and so. Today's my first day or first week. But I've also gone there and because I know what it's like to be there that first day, that first week. And I remember, and it's sort of because I go there now, it's that, hey, Pete, and I know everyone in that room. They know me, I know them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best feeling in the world to go into rooms like that where they know you
Yeah.
or they saw you at another meeting, they recognize the face. And I remember walking in there one day and we spoke and I told him, I had maybe not the greatest day, but everything seems to be going good. That I did that. And then, okay, let's hear from you, Bob. Well, Bob had gotten a DWI. He lost his job. His wife had left him. He was at home. And all of these boom, 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 like literally within that first week or the first couple of days. And I looked at him. He was sitting in front of me. And I go, shit, Pete. Yeah, you may have it good, but you never know about the person in front of you who may have it bad or just as bad. And what I want to do, and this is just very cliche, it's very whatever, but I just wanted to hug him and, I'm here for you. I know that all of this has just happened to you, but here's my number. Call me, reach out to me. I want to be there for you. I don't know you,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be there for you. And I think that's what the beauty of AA is, just you get to exchange number. And I was like, no. Oh, because the big thing that I have after all of this that
Mm-hmm.
I told you in this hour, trust issues. I have trust issues with men
Mm-hmm.
because of what's happened to me as an adult, as a child. So there are days and you'll find out, after today, we're great today, but tomorrow I'm like, no, that Burl, I don't know. I'm waiting for the day that Burl's going to hurt me, abandon me, leave me, not return my phone call, not return a text. I knew it. He just wanted me to come and talk on his show. I knew it. I knew he was going to use me that way. That's where my head goes.
Yeah.
That's where my head goes. So I'm learning to
I love
deal with
Yeah.
that. And I think,
Great insight. It really is. I struggle with those some things. I get it. That to hear you say that, verbalize that is, I think that's a great way to say it. And I struggle with those things too.
I do that with my sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sponsor, he and I were supposed to call and he didn't answer. I knew it. He knew, my head's already ready to, maybe he was in a meeting. Maybe he couldn't answer the phone. And then, sorry, I missed your call. I'll call you back or call me at this time. He didn't answer again. But my head goes there. But I guess that's a Pete issue.
Mm.
That's a Pete issue that I have to deal with rebuilding those trusts because those walls come up. Now with you, they're coming down because I've just met you. But tomorrow they just go back up. And I've had friends for years, friends, brothers. I love you. But man, those walls are up because I'm very guarded because I've been hurt for so long that Pete needs to protect Pete. And Pete's tired of being hurt by other people, but Pete's got to be accountable for Pete at the end of the day and make better choices. And these meetings are exhausting. I don't have much time to do much of anything, but like you said, if I'm not doing these meetings, I'm in my apartment by myself, looking at porn, looking at apps, trying to make a hookup. And so all of this, it's exhausting to the point that after that last meeting, I'm ready to go to bed because I'm just so exhausted of either talking to people or listening to people or sitting here for hours or you know what I mean? It's just, but I got to keep doing that because like you said, I'm that person that since I am alone, I can go to my apartment and all I have is the four walls. And if I'm not talking to someone, and the thing about these SLA meetings, because they are Zoom, they're not in person. So that's the best that I can do is to talk to people by Zoom about these love, sex, addictions. But I've made some contacts all over the United States and I've got numbers, but you have to do the work. I didn't ask for this life. I'm sure that there's a lot of guys out there who have it just as better or worse, but if anything, it's like, you're not alone, brother. I hear you. I may not understand what you're going through, but don't think that you're ever alone in this world. It took me a while to find the counseling. It took me forever to find the AA group. It took me forever to find even this men's group. I wasn't looking for it. They just happened to land on my lap. And I think when you land on your lap, you just take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm not doing this, I'm at the bars. And I still got the second half of my life to lead.
Oh, you do. You have 40 years, buddy. I love it. Think about my life. We have 40 years left. And I know that somebody will say, well, come on, you're going to live to 90. I mean, possibly.
I hope so.
You know,
I hope so.
I think I look at it like I have to think about it like that. Because if I don't, then it becomes, if you just look at the past, I've lived 50 years. Well, it's when I look at it healthy and honest, man, I hope I have 40 more years so that I can that I can be the person that I wanted to be, that I can act like the person I wanted to be, So, well, P, man, brother, I appreciate you being honest and open and vulnerable and being willing to meet. I mean, what a huge leap of faith to be able to, you meet some lady in the elevator and, and you come on this podcast. But like you said, that wasn't by accident. I do believe that was a divine intervention. And of course, I'm a little biased, but my aunt is an amazing woman. And, I think this, but she had 2 kids and both of them to suicide. And so somehow she's, like in our story, it may be alcohol or these other things or struggles. Her struggle has been that. And I'm always like amazed and inspired whenever I'm around her because, somehow she made it through that. And I don't know how she made it through it, to be honest with you. And so that gives me a lot of hope and, to see a woman like that who's made it through something as tragic as that. But brother, I appreciate, and you said at the beginning, it's very true. You have a friend. I mean, now you can call me a friend. You have my cell phone number. I would love to, because I'm struggling with those same things. I'd love to, hear from you. And, if I'm in Midland and I would love to go to a meeting with you and like meet up, have some lunch or something. I think that those things are, let's not just keep in touch, but let's continue to build this friendship. That's what I need. What I realized is that I didn't have any friends. I've lived in the same town for 6, 7 years or something like that. And I hadn't really made any friends. I had acquaintances or people I liked, of course, but I hadn't really made any real meaningful friendships. And so I think that if we believe that God put us in each other's path, on purpose, then I believe that friendship should continue. So, I want to,
and I think
I want to encourage
the funny
you.
thing is, it wasn't just a one-time meeting with your aunt. It was from the first time I met her last month. Okay. But periodically when we run each other in the elevator, have y'all exchanged? Have y'all?
Yeah.
And so it was just those passing meetings in the elevator from the first time I met her last month, even till a couple of days ago. So I think in my head, God was like, okay, y'all haven't met, but I'm going to put you together soon. It's fixing to happen. Because I had forgotten about it. I had forgotten your name. I don't know if she gave me, no, she didn't give my number. I think I gave her, she gave you my number.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those, like, she'd pop up out of the blue. Have y'all spoken? No. And then sometime
She's good at that.
Have y'all spoken?
Yeah.
And she remembered. And it was just like, okay, it wasn't like it just happened like overnight. It was just those passing instances. And I'm like, okay, this is just too weird where I keep running into her and have y'all. And I think I have to believe that God wanted us to meet because she kept putting her in. We're in the same building. We only see each other if we're entering or leaving at the elevator, but it was just like, have y'all met? Have y'all met? Have y'all met? And God wanted us to meet. I have to believe that, because, she got us, that this was going to happen, this podcast. And I knew she did this that you did this just on our first meeting, and she didn't know what I'd gone through. And like I said, I didn't know what she had gone through. And I certainly didn't know you. And so, even if you're not a person of faith, just know that there's a higher power. I think that's what we learned in AA. There's a higher power that guides us, and so, no, like I said, I am sure, if you ever get to Midland or even after, you've got my number, I got my number, and we're going to help some people together.
I love it, man.
That's what we have to do.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, I maybe an email might be the most appropriate. Like if you tell people your email, and then that way when the program rolls out, they can, if they want to, maybe they just want to reach out to you and want to encourage you, or maybe they want some advice or help. Or can you tell us what that email is?
Sure, it's a Pedro, Javier _Fierro, so it's PEDRO, and then Javier JAV as in Victor IER _ and then Fierro. I'll spell that out for you. FIERRO at yahoo.com. But to you, you can by all means please, pass it on to them. But yeah, I think this is what we do.
Somebody might listen to your story and it might really have helped them, and they might want to reach out to you. So, Pete, I appreciate you, brother. I cannot tell you. I say it over and over again. Like you rarely meet somebody in your life because, it's almost like we're all superficial kind of, the world. But you rarely meet somebody in your life that really is vulnerable and opens up and talks about what's going on for real. And you did that, man. And I appreciate you so much. And like I said, I would love to continue this friendship and be able to help each other and bounce the ideas off each other. But thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. And I hope you have a great day. And let's talk soon, okay?
Will do. I promise.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Positively Undefeated. If there was something in this show that resonated with you, please share the show with your community. If you want this show delivered each Monday morning to your podcast app of choice, please subscribe or follow. And if you'd like to get a hold of Burl, please do so by going to burlstricker.com /contact.